All right, I'll say greetings this evening of your time as you create time. How are you? Oh, thank you very much. We begin this interaction this evening of your time with the entitlement. Opening up. When beginning in that sense to take back your power, to decide how you wish to live your life and begin to express that life through preference with integrity. One of the things that is most helpful is in that sense letting go of preconceived notions and in that sense loosening your grip to produce rather than a forcing and allowance, an opening up, an open posture. When you begin in that sense to make such a decision to transform your life, obviously one of the notions that comes up is what do you wish in that sense to transform it to? What are your preferences? What is representative of who you choose to be? Therefore, the first, shall I say, step of opening up will begin by tuning in to, in that sense, your preferences. To tuning into the energy that you produce on an emotional level, which allows you to see in any given situation what is most you and what perhaps is no longer representative of who you choose to be. Therefore, one of the representations of that vibration is what you refer to colloquially as your excitement. For your excitement is that vibratory representation, the energy, if you will, that tells you in any given situation that the thing that excites you the most in that moment is most you, is a representation of who you chose to be. Now, when you open up, you can, in that sense, allow any factor to lead you, any factor to set the tone. Many individuals in that sense will choose to open up to fear and allow that fear, which is believing that a reality that you do not prefer is most likely to lead your life. And that is certainly one possibility. I need not tell you. However, you can begin now to tune into your excitement, which is in that sense a representation of your passion. A representation of the thing in any given moment from what's available that is most representative of the thing that if you act on will give you the result that will change your life according to preference. So first of all, opening up takes the form of being cognizant, of beginning to define the things that excite you. For you truly deserve these things, and it is now a matter of getting down to identifying them. Very often your society will seem to talk you out of many of the things that have excited you, perhaps as you were growing up. Maybe saying that's irresponsible, that's no way to make a living. Everyone knows that you should grow up and not do that. But understand that until you believe it, till you buy into what they say, everyone does not know anything. When you buy into it, then yes, it seems like everyone knows this and that. But there is no that's the way it is. There are in fact many that's the way it is. And you, in that sense, get to choose, and the one that you choose, yes, will seem to present the evidence that that is the only way it is, but that is the nature of beliefs. Whatever you believe, every belief system has along with it a built-in, self-sustaining, self-perpetuating system of logic and system of evidence. So truly, by extension, believing is seeing. You will always see it. And if you shift the belief and act according to the new belief, the evidence changes. And since both realities have evidence, you may understand they are both true. The thing that you do not prefer is true, and the thing that you do prefer is true. And it is not a matter of deciding which is true, this or that, for that is a very narrow-minded approach. It is more the understanding that the truth is composed of all truths, and all truths are true to those who believe them. They then again provide their own evidence, which tells them it's the only way. But when you begin to see that someone else's truth is just as true, that gives you equal access to choose any truth that you prefer. And by not buying into the notion that there is a truth and everything else is false, you allow yourself that many more options of things to choose from. So therefore, all truths are fundamentally and foundationally true to the individuals exploring them. And when you, in that sense, act according to a particular belief, the evidence is provided, making it seem like that's the way it is. And this works for all beliefs and all individuals across the board, as you say. So this is automatic. Therefore, perhaps the second thing that will behoove you to open up to is the things you truly believe. For many of the things that you believe, you have chosen to believe. You have consciously chosen to match and create that belief in your life. But because you create the idea you call unconscious, many beliefs also you have bought into, quote unquote, on faith. Perhaps because that was what you were spoon-fed, and perhaps because no one told you there was another option, so you just assumed that is the truth, that is my belief, and then by creating that belief got the evidence that that was the only way. Paradoxically, you cannot change one single thing that you do believe till you first acknowledge that you believe it. And this is particularly true of the beliefs which you have created or chosen unconsciously. Because you create the separation of them being unconscious, they are not at your disposal till you make them conscious, till you allow them to become conscious, and till you allow yourself to become aware of them. Therefore, the beliefs that you have which are unconscious do present themselves to you, do come to the surface. And if you are open to their messenger, if you open up to the messenger of your beliefs, you can allow them one by one to spring forth to your awareness from your subconscious mind. Well, how do you do this, you may ask? Good question. I'll tell you. All beliefs result in something you call emotion. And you are quite emotional beings, but perhaps have not always been taught that these emotions are always, no exceptions, a result of a belief. So you do not just feel that way. Well, I just feel that way. Many times individuals upon your society will say, but that is not quite accurate. Perhaps you can fool yourself into thinking that, but ultimately, every emotion is the direct result of a belief. You feel that way because of something you believe. Therefore, emotions themselves are a window to your beliefs, and therefore a window to your liberation from unconscious beliefs that you no longer prefer. And simply when you feel an emotion that is from an unpreferred belief, in general, by extension, conveniently, it will be an unpreferred emotion. Now, this is where many of your society run and cower. Oh no, you mean I have to feel something bad? Well, the idea is this. If you are willing to feel your negative emotions rather than deny them and squelch them, yes, you do have to feel them, but only for a very short amount of time. For when you get down to feeling your emotions and allowing yourself to express them, then you are in the perfect mindset to ask yourself, not now hypothetically, but while you are feeling it, what must I believe right now in these circumstances to feel this way? So opening up to your emotions is the allowance of those emotions, again, particularly ones that you do not prefer, for they deliver on their wings the messages that are your beliefs. So therefore, when you open up to your emotions, allow them through, and then ask yourself what belief lies under them, then the quote-unquote unconsciously bought into belief gets handed to you, as you say, on a silver platter. It becomes most obvious in that moment. That is why the emotion is created, to tell you, to allow you to see what you believe. And once again, once you acknowledge a belief, and acknowledge that it is a truth and not the only truth, you then equalize it to all the other options which you now lay before you. When you deny that, when you say, well, Here I feel a negative emotion. What must I believe? I must believe this particular negative thing. Oh, I would never believe that. Oh, anyone who believes that is very bad. No way. You deny that emotion, you deny that belief, and you tuck it back into the subconscious. When you acknowledge in that sense the belief, well, I would prefer not to believe this. I would prefer no one did, but obviously I do believe it. You are now back in what you call the driver's seat. You now can change that belief, but only because you have allowed yourself to acknowledge it. Acknowledgement liberates your unconscious beliefs. Denial tucks them back in. And by the way, they then come back knocking louder. For you cannot ultimately, for very long, deny what is inside of yourself. It grows nastier, uglier, noisier, and eventually will come in some unpreferred form that you will address it. So your willingness to begin to dive into addressing your beliefs, again, in the form of negative emotions, allows you to see an interesting thing that occurs. Once you are willing to feel the anger, feel the fear, feel whatever negative emotion that you create, and again, it hands you the belief, you generally get to a point, now that you've dived into it, where you simply go, well, now what? It is not that the emotion ever continues to grow and overbear you, only does it seem to do so when you deny it, or you deny its underlying belief. So in acknowledging, in calling forth a belief that an emotion represents, the hold of that emotion begins to loosen. For that is again why the emotion has been created by you. And when you use your creations in a positive way, they have no reason to hang around after that. They have played out their purpose. So your willingness to feel these negative emotions and trace them back to the belief actually allows you to end cycle on feeling them. Your willingness to say, well, that couldn't be me, I'm beyond that, again tucks it back in the form of denial, and again you will get to look at it again some other time in a nastier form. As you open up to your emotions, as you open up to your thoughts, for they often will be generated from such emotions, and trace back to the belief, the last thing that is left to open up to is what you call your actions. For your beliefs create emotions and thoughts, and with that foundational prism, you then act, you do something, you perform an action in your reality. That action will always be tainted if it is, again, a negative belief, but somehow will reflect in either a blatant or subtle way the underlying belief, emotion, and thought. Never again do you act in a vacuum or do anything in a vacuum. There is always a foundation. So obviously, if you have a negative belief, yielding a negative emotion, yielding a negative thought, the actions that you perform will have a negative foundation and cannot help but, again, blatantly or subtly come out as negative actions. In a physical world, which is where you choose to exist, actions are actually what create the reality, physically. So therefore, belief, emotion, and thought are the foundation, and action is the midwife that brings in that reality. And you always, again, as you always feel what you believe, you always act according to what you truly believe. So beginning to open up to your actions, how am I acting in a particular circumstance? Again, particularly when you are not acting according to your preference, can also be traced back to a belief. Now, this is what liberates you from your unpreferred beliefs, opening up to them in the form of emotions, thoughts, and actions. But where you transform them, having acknowledged them, is by opening up to the actions performed from the old negative beliefs, which is again what creates your life. You may now that you are equalizing the old unpreferred belief by acknowledging it, call up the new preferred belief. And the new preferred belief, when you even state it with your eyes closed, perhaps sitting still and quiet, you can begin to get a sense of how it feels. Because again, all beliefs yield an emotion even if you are only trying them on. So you can literally conjure up the feeling by simply stating the belief that you prefer, having acknowledged the old belief that you no longer do. When you state the new belief and begin to feel it and project in your imagination very clearly how one with the new belief would act if you open up to those actions, which will be absolutely different, obviously, from the actions of the negative belief, you now have in front of you a mold, a model. Choice A, negative actions according to the negative belief, and choice B, positive actions according to the new preferred positive belief. When you go through the process of allowing yourself, rather than being automatic, to begin to assess this mechanism, and lie side by side the actions of the unpreferred belief to the actions of the new preferred belief, it is not, shall I say, a great difficulty in choosing the positive actions. For now that you have showed yourself that there is an alternative, now that you have seen that your actions were the result of an unpreferred belief, now that you called forth the preferred belief, and again, see in no uncertain terms that the actions of the preferred belief are different, it is not that difficult to choose the actions of the preferred belief. Because now that you have given yourself the advantage of acknowledging them as an option, they are far more representative, the new actions according to the new beliefs, of the you say you prefer to be. So going through this particular process, if you wish to call it that, will always give you two sets or two courses of action. And again, one will be preferable to the other, so it will be no big choice to make. And this is how you create your reality. You believe, you feel, you think, you act. You're already doing this. Again, the negative, unpreferred beliefs are yielding negative, unpreferred actions, which are creating negative, unpreferred results. This is nothing you need master. You're experts, believe me. Therefore, now, if you wish to master anything else, you can master performing, making yourself aware of first, and then performing the new preferred actions, which again, by extension, can only yield at least a different result in the same, quote unquote, seeming same circumstance. So your opening up takes the form of becoming aware of what you already believe, feel, think, and act, and becoming aware of what you wish to believe, how that would feel, how one would think and act with that belief, providing options, providing alternatives, which again then are not difficult to choose. Again, I remind you, this can be greatly simplified by simply in any given moment, allowing yourself to factor out things that are not available to act upon in that moment, pushing them aside, leaving them for later, and seeing what is right in front of you in any given moment. What's right here? What's right here? What's right in front of my face? And choosing from those options the choice, the option that excites you the most, that you can act upon with integrity. This will change the face of your life without the process, and the opening up process will simply then be automatic. You will simply, in the perfect timing, have particular negative feelings, which will then be the perfect timing to trace them back to the beliefs, reassign new beliefs, reassign new actions, perform the new actions, and get the new reality. You are right there at the precipice of changing your reality, and even being able to understand a single word that is translating through the channel allows you to know that you are capable of this. Now, lastly, before we proceed to interact, openness, being open, is an advantage. What you call God, what we call all that is, what sometimes will be referred to as the universe or infinite creation, in that sense, always provides to you what you truly feel, you believe, and deserve to have. And therefore, a posture of openness, ultimate willing to be completely open, therefore results in the universe withholding nothing from you. It is a point of power. Many individuals in your society will equate that degree of openness to what you call, in a negative sense, vulnerability. But understand, vulnerability need not mean in any way, shape, or form weakness. It can simply represent your willingness to be completely open to the universe. And again, I remind you, the universe then withholds nothing from you. Only will that degree of openness be perceived as weakness if you believe that, again, something that you do not prefer can slip in there and get you. And the bottom line is, you are the entire universe. Ultimately, metaphysically speaking, you are the cause of causes. There is no outside, and therefore there is no outside for something to sneak in from and get you. It is all within you. You have the perception, and one of the explorations of physical reality is that your soul is within your body. But from our perspective and our knowledge and understanding, this is completely reverse of the actual, shall I say, mechanism of creation. For literally, your body is within your consciousness, not the other way around. Your body is but a point, a pinpoint in that way of your consciousness itself. So from that perspective, you truly created all. And from that perspective, anything that you perceive to be external is still within you, and therefore, from your point of view, a reflection of something within you. Therefore, you can use all the various reflections in your reality in a positive way. Some will align you in the aspect that you will agree with them, and they will assist you in defining who you are by reinforcing who you are. But some of the external reflections will, in that sense, allow you to define yourself through what you call opposites, or by showing you an example of something that you absolutely are not. And therefore, though you do not usually interpret it this way, is of service to you by, again, aligning you to who you are, with a dynamic tension in that case, by providing an example of who you are not. But however, that allows for self-definition as well. So no matter who you interact with and whatever you do, it is always of service to you, and it always assists you in defining and reinforcing your definition of who you are. Again, either by agreement or by complete antithesis. But everything is of service to you. And again, since it is all within you, you may just wish to begin to approach it from that perspective, as reflections, as part of you, as gifts that are being offered to you. Again, sometimes ones which will support your viewpoint and others which will, in a sense, seem to run opposite to it, but that again allows you to define yourself. That is what you call anger. For anger is simply a momentary rush of alignment when you, in that sense, interact with a reflection that is indicative in no uncertain terms of who you are not. And in that sense, it is then of service to you. True anger only lasts 10 to 15 of your seconds. That feeling, that rush of alignment, again, is of service to you in your self-definition. Beyond the 10 to 15 seconds, in general, individuals in your society have been brought up with a tendency to spend then many successive minutes, perhaps you can say sometimes hours, days, weeks, or years, invalidating and judging the thing which is not representative of who you are. And that is why what you call anger seems, in that sense, to last so long. But if you truly, in that sense, count to 10, that is where that expression comes from, that will in general play out the amount of time by which you can realize that that rush of alignment has been of service to you, and perhaps you can say cut yourself off at the pass at invalidating the thing that is not representative of who you are. For just as denial, invalidating something that you do not prefer, does not give it less weight, it gives it more weight by placing more attention upon it. Invalidating or judging a symbol does not give it less weight in your life or less effect on you. It gives you more effect, more weight. And you will never truly, in that sense, transform anything by continuing to judge it. You can, in that sense, validate realities which you do not prefer without condoning them. In other words, you can say, all right, that is not my exploration. A matter of fact, it's nothing like my exploration. I would never do that. But obviously, they have the right and reason to exist as well. They, although I can't imagine what, are exploring something from some level. So I will allow them to explore that. And that is the extent of the, shall I say, tone with which you then validate them with. But again, you can validate something without condoning it. Allowing something to exist on its own and not interacting with it is not condoning it. It is validating it. Where you condone an action is when you perform a similar action. So if you, in a sense, find that someone is doing something that is not representative of who you are, and you are willing to validate it as a reality and then not do that thing for any reason, even if it's just to show them, then you are validating that point of view without condoning it. The moment you act that way, again, no matter what your rationale is, well, I'll show them how it feels so they'll never do that again. The moment you show them, you are being them. You are condoning that action. And you can begin now, through this realization, to simply validate all realities and only condone, only act according to the ones that are representative of who you are. This form of opening up, particularly what we have just discussed, the latter portion, is the key to what you call peace upon your planet. For it is not the fact that you have many different ideologies in and of itself that creates warfare. It is the mutually exclusive element saying that this is the way, the only way, and no other ways have the right to exist, that creates that friction, that creates that war. If there were only one way, there would only be one person. And in looking around, obviously this is not so. Each person is a way, is a path. A path is not something you are on. A path is something you are and always shall be. So therefore, beginning to validate the realities of others, beginning to validate the beliefs that you used to have or that you are finding no longer serve you, gives you equal access to all other realities. Validation is the key to equalization. Validating your beliefs that you no longer prefer and validating the realities of others that you no longer prefer without condoning them. These are the simple keys to beginning to embody inner peace, beginning to embody peace of mind. Peace can only be achieved through the love of peace itself. For peace from the perspective of hating war is matching the vibration of hate. And in fact, by extension, matching the vibration of war itself. So by loving that aspect, embodying that aspect, and providing through opening up to action a living example of a person who is now willing to express their great power in this way, begins to allow you to be the initial examples upon your planet. Not to mention, creates a life of ecstasy for you in the process. So I assume there is some attraction to what I am saying. Our particular society functions in this way. And we, in that sense, have complete intercooperation. In fact, to the point where now we no longer have the need for what you colloquially refer to as privacy. And our society expresses itself no longer through what you call language, but through empathic connection. Empathy. Empathy, which is vibrating as someone else, so closely, matching their vibration so closely that you begin to create similar thoughts at the same time. That is the mechanism that you call telepathy. But it is a form of empathy, and thus we rename it telepathy. Our society functions in this way because, again, we are willing to look at the reality of others that do not correspond to our choices without invalidating them and simply going on about our way with the things that are representative of who we are. As you do this, you attract other individuals who are now representative of the new belief. And many times, either your old friends will begin to seem to change as they too will be willing to match this, or they will, in a sense, begin to disappear into the woodwork. As you redefine who you are, as you redefine your inner self, the outer reflection then changes to follow suit. And always, again, is in this way, believing, seeing. It always has been, it always will be. If one of the things that you believe is that seeing is believing, that is why you get that effect. And that is one of the things you are taught upon and in your society. But the adverse is no less true. You are living examples of it. And as you change your beliefs and act according to the new preferred beliefs, so will you too see what I am saying. Only you can prove it to yourself. Only you, upon being so willing, can open up to who you are and express who you are throughout your life. We wish now to thank you all for participating in this co-created interaction with us this evening of your time. It brings us great joy to function literally as ambassadors from our civilization and in allowing you on a ground roots level to act as ambassadors from your civilization as well. I thank you, express my unconditional love and appreciation, and ask you now how I may be of service to you. Shutting.
On your planet, it must be fun to have sex.
Is there any other way? The idea is many of the mores, social mores that surround that symbol in your society do not exist within our own. So therefore, since everything that we do, from moving our little finger to, as you say, having sex, is a complete and committed act. There are no, if you'll pardon the expression, half-assed actions in our society. We are always, in that sense, completely committed to whatever we are doing, for it is always a direct expression of who we choose to be. This bit about excitement that we share is simply our automatic way of living, and in a sense required observing your society to understand where you were not doing this automatically. At first, this was not apparent to us, such is it an automatic way of life for us. But again, because you can understand this, because when I say it, you feel, well, that would be nice. That tells you you contain it. For only can you understand something if you first contain it. Was there a specific question that you had?
Yes. Do you have physical sex to reproduce?
It was, shall we say, much more prevalent in our past. Now the act is more of an exchange of energy as we are also, perhaps you can say, evolving, so to speak, into a more non-physical existence. However, again, historically speaking, it was much the same as your own, without perhaps, again, many of the mores attached. It was always a complete commitment. It was always a complete sharing between two individuals. And it was always a complete expression of two complete individuals, creating a greater whole. Not two individuals feeling incomplete, attracting each other out of those feelings of incompleteness and attempting to complete each other through the act. No. So there is a difference in how it is perceived. But again, you would perceive historically it occurring in much the same way with much the same anatomy. Is that all?
You said, well, now you do it.
Now it is far more of an energy exchange as we, shall I say, as you as a society begin to evolve from limited master of limitation physicality to more of a limitless physicality, beginning now individually and society to see what you can still do in your creatorhood while still remaining physical, my society is beginning to, shall I say, border non-physical, the first level, if you will, of experiencing existence as non-physical beings. So therefore, part of the symptom of this in my society is beginning to no longer rely on external symbology. Therefore, rather than quote-unquote eating, we will now exchange energy directly with our environment. This is a relatively recent development. However, we still maintain the ability to perform the physical act, and from time to time we'll choose to do so for specific reasons, because again, as you evolve, you do not lose the ability to experience something you used to be able to create. So we will tap into it here and there, now and then, but far more are beginning to rely on inner resources rather than outer realities. Now, one of the things that you are doing as a society is beginning to realize that the outer reality is a reflection of you, but still use that outer reality. Since you've created it and now you realize what it is and where it is from, you can begin to play with it and have fun with it. We are, perhaps you can say, just beginning to pass by that idea and beginning to explore non-physicality altogether. Was this clear?
Yes. In biblical times, it said Mary was with child without having sex. That's possible. That's
Absolutely. It is quite rare upon your planet, but it is absolutely possible, yes. And that is, in a sense, a version of what I am saying, where there has been an energy exchange that has a physical analog. Good example. Will that do?
yes.
We thank you. Shedding.
Elan,
Ace, male.
you read a lot about UFO abductions and articles on aliens running tests on human stuff. Do you have anything to say about that?
Ace. First of all, we prefer the terminology detainment, for they are just that, temporary detainments. No one is whisked away and not brought back. Understand that, again, as I have shared at the beginning of this interaction, that you create your reality and you do so either consciously or unconsciously. Certain of the agreements that you have made prior to this life, you will often choose to have remain unconscious agreements. Any individual upon your planet that is interacting with such entities which do exist physically, although they also exist out of phase with your physical reality as well, have done so by choice. Now, again, from the perspective of many of their lives, since they do not realize consciously that they create their own reality, they have denied and forgotten the choice and do not act as though it is a choice. When this perspective is assumed by an individual, then the playing out of the agreement takes the form of happening to them. For it is not even a notion that everything happens from them, that this must be one of the things they agreed to, and therefore they act out of fear, and that fear will produce physical pain from what you call the various procedures. Understand that there are many other individuals who have been having such interactions since childhood, who have never filed it in the negative draw, have filed it as a positive, very personal experience. They also are detained in similar manner. Certain observations and, shall I say, perhaps you can say, procedures are performed, and they simply, with no pain, allow the exchange, understanding that they are providing something to these beings, that those beings in return are providing something back, though perhaps that will be perceived as mental. And these are the individuals that, because they generally have filed it as positive and private, are not on, all right, Donahue. The ones who are in fear and the ones who have not even entertained the possibility that they must have agreed to it, so now they can look at why they did so, again, through that fear, tend to speak much more loudly, tend to, in that sense, attract other individuals to speak of this too. So overwhelmingly, your society's notions of these interactions come from the fearful individuals. Now, this society has been interacting with your society for many years. Your government has been aware of them since your 1947 year. And in that sense, they mean no harm. They are, in that sense, utilizing particular genetic material, again, by agreement, though many will not admit this, and are doing no harm to the individuals in the process. The individuals who are in deep denial and in that sense experiencing this in the form of victimhood through that self-judgment, through that judgment of the agreement, through the friction of all these conflicting ideas, create the very pain, create the very mental anguish that you hear of. From our perspective, that is never the result of the interaction, only the denial of the participant of their agreement. Does this make sense? All right. Is there something else specific that you wish to discuss along these lines?
Along another line, I'd like to discuss different incarnations that one soul would have, different lifetimes. Is there a way of connecting those or tapping into another, for instance, if you were reincarnated?
Understood.
Is there a way to tap into the previous life and learn something from that?
Well, absolutely. However, allow me to explain something that perhaps is not taught in your society. You have all, in this room, lived thousands of lives upon your planet. Not just a few. Not just 3 or 4. Therefore, yes, there is the availability of a plethora of information from what you generally refer to as your oversoul or higher self. However, being that the last 25,000-year cycle upon your planet has been the exploration of limitation, negativity, and functioning as though you are completely separate from what you call God or all that is, many of the explorations, many of the experiences of, perhaps you can say, most of those lives are completely irrelevant in a lifetime that is exploring expansion, that is exploring limitlessness. Now again, having lived thousands of lives, they were not all lives of complete limitation and suffering. Many of them also had such explorations, beginning to open up to spirituality, beginning to open up to self-empowerment. So therefore, your perception that you have only lived a few lives is due to the fact that those few lives that you may perceive are relevant, had similar explorations to the life you are living now. So yes, you can tap into them, but it is not something that requires effort. For as you explore something and simply in a meditative state close your eyes and blank the screen of your imagination, periods in your historical timing that are relevant will come to the surface, will come to mind. And you can tap into, in a sense, what you were doing in a particular life if what you were doing is similar to what you are doing now. That is the only way there will be any bleed through and any sense to be made of it. Again, if it is a life that was so much different from the life you are leading now, it would simply make no sense within the framework of who you are. So you can tap into them. They are, again, usually the ones that are representative of what you are exploring now, and where you find yourself strongly attracted, either to a people, to a land, to a place, to a particular, shall I say, sacred site. These ideas will cue you into what connections you have that are relevant. And then if it is a physical place or a physical person, then connecting with that place physically or with that person physically will generally, in that sense, create a conducive enough commonality in this life to have aspects of that life which will be of assistance to you in this life come through. Now, one more idea. When you speak of incarnating as a soul who lives a life, is born, gets old, dies, reincarnated, born, gets old, and dies, that is only one way of thinking about it and one way of experiencing it. From the perspective of what you call your oversoul or higher self, that is not the way it is perceived by your higher self. From your point of view, physical point of view, there is linear notion, linear timing, and the linear playing out of what you call before, during, and after. From the perspective of your higher self, all lives, everything all together is simultaneous. No timeline to stretch it out upon. It all exists in an ever-existing eternal now moment where everything is simultaneously occurring. So from the perspective of your physical self, reincarnation. From the physical From the perspective of your higher self, it is multiple, simultaneous incarnations. So one other idea in connecting with these ideas is that you need go nowhere. From the perspective of your higher self, it is all happening right now. And you need not retrieve something, simply tap into a bleed through where what is happening right now can be perceived by you right now. For the commonality in all lives and in all existences that do not even contain the definition of lives is what you call the now moment. You always exist in the now moment. You only ever have. You, from the now moment, create a notion of a past, a notion of a future, but you truly only live right here and right now. So right here and right now are your nexus points, are your connections to many of these ideas. Is this of service? All right. We thank you as well. Other male.
Are we not somewhat limited by the collective negative belief systems of all of those around us?
Only to the degree that you accept them. Only to the degree that on some level you buy into them, then feel that way, think that way, and act that way, period. Therefore, you actually have an option that many of you have not pondered. And that is to only experience positive results. You are in a world of polarity, which involves positive and negative. When you expand your consciousness within a given reality, by definition, your awareness of everything expands, including the negative. But awareness of and experience of are two completely different things. You only experience something when you act according to that premise. If you see negativity in someone else, validate it, but do not condone it. You act according to your preference. You can be aware of negativity, even more aware of it, but only through others and not need to experience it. There is a belief that many individuals buy into that in order to appreciate or even have the ability to even discern what happiness is, you must do so against the backdrop of continuing and repetitive sadness and misery. And that is simply a belief. Therefore, because it is only a belief that you must balance positive with negative, you only get that effect when you act with that expectancy. You can, in that sense, be willing to be more aware of negativity and positivity through your expansion, again, in the form of awareness, but not in the form of experience. Now, as I say this, if you find yourself saying, yeah, sure, then you are identifying a belief within you. Is this of service?
Yes, but as a telepathic creature who can feel the negative belief systems of others, and those negative belief systems can impinge on the nervous system.
No. Who told you that? That is a belief which, yes, has evidence which will accompany it, but that is not the way it is. That is a way that it is. In other words, I may be aware of negativity that individuals are exploring in your reality, but I do not feel that negativity because it is not my belief. So therefore, I have an awareness of it, but it has no effect on me. And in fact, many times, my particular orientation is so positive in terms of belief, emotion, thought, and action that I merely take your word about the negativity upon your planet. For I have no experiential choice of feeling it. And therefore, I always see you from the empowered viewpoint. I always see you as exploring negativity because you have enough power to even begin to think about exploring it. And I will never, therefore, feel sorry or sympathy, which will drag me down or affect my vibes, as you say. I will simply, in that sense, see you from the empowered viewpoint. And again, perhaps admire many of your courage to the degree and the extent that you are willing to explore experience of negativity. But that need not, in a sense, have any effect on me until I say so. then it does. So it can impinge if you contain that as a notion, or you can simply maintain a compassionate awareness of it without it affecting you because you are too busy generating the alternative, which is then of service to other individuals who may wish to see that reflection. Do proceed if this is not clear.
It is clear.
Does it sound too simple or too good to be true?
No.
Really?
In living in this environment and in having had the belief system that I was open and vulnerable to this environment and feeling the pain that exists in this environment as a result of that.
You can only feel the pain if you contain a belief that would allow you to feel that pain. So therefore, if someone else is creating negativity and you perceive it and you feel it, the point there is that there is an issue in that for you. And that you are now giving yourself an opportunity, very creatively through an external circumstance, you label them, to see a belief that perhaps you have not looked at within yourself. But when you truly are clear what you believe, when you have acknowledged all the negative beliefs that no longer serve you and replace them with positive beliefs, you will no longer match that feeling that they have with the same feeling. For your interpretation, your perceptive system will now be retuned for positive, in that sense, experience. So if you do feel this, it is simply, again, an advantage, an opportunity for you to see where that applies to you. Once again, allow me to say this. You are the universe. Everything within it is you. Therefore, you do not literally feel someone else's energy. You create your own version of that energy and express and experience that. So even when you say, well, Elan, I feel your energy, no, you are matching my energy. You can only feel your own energy. So again, allow this to be a window to your soul, a window to the beliefs that you still contain, that you no longer prefer. And again, many times one of those beliefs will be, well, everyone has to have some negative experience to balance out the positive. And it's all right to believe that. You cannot change it till you acknowledge that you do, and you cannot acknowledge that you believe anything till you realize it's all right to believe that. Is this getting to the issue?
Yes, but you described a process in your world where you and another, through telepathic experience, actually unite on the level of experience and share the identical experience.
Ace, but perhaps what I left out was that not one single individual upon my whole planet chooses to experience negativity. So they are simply gradient variances of positive experiences. And that is what allowed us to become telepathic.
But are there none of us on this planet who are capable of experiencing another's experience directly?
Again, no. You create your version of it. And the more accurately you do that, the more it seems that way. But that is the extent of it, as I had began by saying. Telepathy is not reading someone else's mind. It is empathically connecting with them so much that you function and identify completely as them. And when you function completely as them, you create similar thoughts at the same time. Your energy, your thoughts, but from a similar foundational perspective, they can seem to be the same. This is very often exhibited in individuals upon your planet that you say are in love, where they seem to know what each other are about to say. They are so in synchronous, harmonic, vibrational resonance that they create similar thoughts at the same time. And this is always the mechanism. And knowing this gives you power, whereas thinking that they can impinge on you creates an excuse not to exhibit that power. A very sound excuse, but an excuse no less. From the overall fundamental, foundational viewpoint that you created all, which you do. Your powers of creation are so vast though this may sound paradoxical, that you can actually create the apparency that you don't create it at all. But that is not lack of power. That is complete power and the complete courage to play out that reality. Do proceed if this is not clear.
I just, if people in love can do that in the positive realm, I mean, if you're walking down the street and people are walking by you and you're feeling their habits and you're feeling their energies and you're feeling the essence of what makes them individuals, I don't.
If you are positively oriented, then you will not feel their negativity as negativity. You will sense their negativity, you will sense their interpretation of it, but you will provide yourself with your own interpretation of it, which will generally, again, if you are functioning from the positive perspective, be an empowering notion as to why they have the right, the reason, and the complete strength to create that negativity. But until you match it, you do not feel it. And when you feel it, you are matching it from within you.
In my language, I think of that as taking it personally.
In what way?
That it's somehow a reflection. In taking it on or taking it personally or taking it as something which denies my own experience or my own.
Oh, no. And if in that sense that is your perception, then allow us to clarify. What you are saying is what is true for you. What I am saying is no better than what you are saying. And I am not in that sense attempting to convince you about what I am saying. What I am sharing with you is an alternative way of looking at it where you won't get the effect of someone else dragging you down with their energy. And when you, in that sense, maintain a positive perspective, you are then more able to be of service to them if it is a notion that you wish to be of service to them to begin with. We are not invalidating your process and saying that it is untrue by any means. We are simply clarifying and explaining our own against the backdrop of your own and giving you a choice. When you choose to perceive what you are perceiving, obviously, as we have shared, in acting that way, you will get blatant evidence that that is a truth, a very valid truth, a very valid way to look at it. What we are providing is another valid truth to ponder and decide which one is representative of who you are.
So then, what is to stop us from having, for example, having the same kind of interaction that you have in Essassani? I mean, there should be no limitations to that, where we can engage in totally positive telepathic communication with others on our planet.
Well, the idea is that you can. And as you begin to function from the positive perspective, because you can only experience a reality that you are the vibration of, you begin to draw from your population other individuals of like mind. And as in that sense, you attract individuals willing to explore that vibratory presentation, then you will express and experience that with them. But ultimately, mass en masse as a society, this is many years off into your future, for many individuals still choose to represent and explore negative experience in no uncertain terms.
So just to clarify the mechanics of being aware of other people's limitations without being limited by other people's limitations, could you clarify that?
Yes, you simply in that sense make note of what it is you feel is their limitation, and then go about your business without being the same way. Therefore, you are validating their reality and providing a positive alternative. That positive alternative is a beacon, which again attracts other individuals of like mind. You create a nucleus, and in that nucleus begin to express ahead of the timing of the rest of your society versions of this telepathic ability. But right now, what is perhaps you can say a main consideration to individuals upon your planet being that they deny much of the beliefs within them is what you call privacy. So as the need and the desire for privacy remains, individuals will not allow themselves to open up to that type of telepathic connection, for they are afraid to face many of the things within themselves, let alone let someone else in to see them.
I have a few other questions.
All right. What we will do is allow some others to ask and then come back to you for continuity, but please hold them. We wish in that sense to interact again. All right? Shutting. Ace.
From your perspective, is there a difference between belief systems and opinions?
They can be interchangeable, but again, this is semantic. For as you, in that sense, have a belief system, in general, you can also break it down as a gradient of opinions being expressed from the perspective of that belief system. So it simply depends what you are asking.
Okay, I've been in a situation at work where someone who sits very close to me, we have some very interesting conversations. We also have very divergent, I think, belief systems and very different perspectives on things. And he's stated on a couple of occasions in no uncertain terms that he believes that his way is the way that things should be, and if other people can't toe the line according to what he believes, then too bad, and if they should, even die or whatever as a result, that's just their tough luck.
Well, again, this is the attitude that we have shared that results in warfare. However, you're now in a unique position, for you can actually demonstrate that not only are you willing to accept the reality of others, although again, perhaps not condoning it, but you are even willing to accept the reality of others that are not willing to accept your reality. And this again provides an example in no uncertain terms, in a blatant way, to that individual, regardless of the fact that he may never in this life choose it, at least shows him that such a thing exists and can work as an alternative, as an option.
Okay.
Do you find yourself, however, insisting your viewpoint upon him?
No.
Oh.
I feel very passionate about my beliefs. And I felt really willing to express it, which I think in my work environment, for me, there is a certain feeling of vulnerability there. And it felt really good to do that anyway, to feel vulnerable and be very clear about who I was anyway. I guess what I'm asking about between belief systems and opinions is that questioning him further about why he has this particular opinion and what he bases it on. There was very little factual. He was very unaware of the facts of the situations he had such an opinion on. And I can respect his rights to have opinions, and his own beliefs, and they can certainly be different from mine.
Then where does the but come in?
Well, when opinions are formed without the knowledge of the situation that they're formed about.
Well, that is your perception of his knowledge of his situation, which obviously differs from his own perception. The point is, are you willing to validate one who, even from your perspective, does that? It is perfectly fine for him to explore it. Now, you too, in a sense, can mirror back to him, saying things that you cannot substantiate and know nothing about, or can simply, in interacting with him, maintain your consistency of knowing about what you speak to, again, to provide another perspective to him, but never can you force him to change his point of view. That, in a sense, is not even the point. So are you willing to simply maintain who you are, interact with him to the degree that you wish to, and then in that sense, when it is no longer relevant, not need to insist on your point of view, for again, if you believe in the power of it, you simply state it as a gift with no insistence that anyone need take it. Where is it hanging up for you?
I guess it's hanging up because
his belief system is mutually exclusive and yours is not?
No, I guess because I feel that for one person to say that their way is the only way and that everybody else's stuff, it better conform or else. Those people tend to find each other. Then they become a group of people who think that anybody else has to do things their way.
Well, in general, they then attract another group of people not their way with a similar notion, and in that sense create what you consider conflict.
Right.
But is that really your business? Or is your business to be who you choose to be, interact with that individual to the extent where you feel in that sense excited to do so, and then allow him to create his reality, and again, assuming that your reality does not contain those definitions, perhaps you will then not be interacting in proximity with him to that degree. And simply be, again, attracting your group, which will show you that all ways can exist simultaneously.
Well, he sits right in front of me, so I hear this a lot on a day-to-day basis.
Well, how exciting.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of being this excited.
Well,
You had mentioned before about the dynamic tension that's created when there's a disagreement between belief systems. And I'm finding that a lot, and I see the service that it is for me because it allows me to really define myself, as you've said. But
another but. Oh.
another but, yeah. I think I've gotten the message, and I'd like a seat to move to someplace else, so it's not quite as dynamic.
Oh, well, sometimes it can be as mundane as simply requesting a change of seat. But perhaps you can also understand that perhaps there is some unfinished business. Perhaps you have not given yourself the opportunity to maintain your center in that situation till there's no longer a charge on it, till it no longer matters. It is simply who he is and who you are.
Okay.
So perhaps there is still a little bit more there to work out.
Okay.
Is there something else?
Not right now. I have other questions, but
Oh,
subjects.
we thank you. Shutting. Ace.
I went back to a previous life and we discussed this before, and I found out I was carrying forward guilt.
Well, that was your interpretation of it through which we then provided a tool, but do proceed. In that sense, you only match that guilt, create that feeling here and now. For again, the past has no hold on you. The present is not even experientially a result of the past. And only do you feel an effect from the past when you match it or recreate it right now, right here, the only time, the only place there ever is. But anyway, since you had created that, shall I say, convenient convention, we simply played through it to allow yourself to deliver a message to yourself. Now, what have you done, and how has this been of service to you?
Well, I found myself, I didn't want this guilt, and here I was creating it again. So I took another look at it, and I realized, I said, I don't want to be guilty. But see, I recognized I was being guilty, feeling that way. And then I turned around and said, well, if I want something different, I didn't say what it is I want to be different at. So I defined it, the new preferential person would be someone with integrity, you see, would have no guilt. Rather than saying, I'm not guilty.
Again, what is your definition of guilt?
Doing something wrong.
Well, judging yourself for having done something or other. And in the process of judging yourself in that moment, not unconditionally loving yourself. For unconditional love means no conditions, and judgment is the imposition of conditions. So in the moment you are feeling quote unquote guilt, you are not unconditionally loving yourself. And while you are then placing blame and judgment, there is nothing to reconcile. You are in the process of experiencing blame and judgment. What will allow you to recenter yourself is, again, the reminder that judgment is conditional love and the willingness to reinsert unconditional love, which then takes the form of forgiveness, retaining, remaining, restating that unconditional love and moving forward. If you feel a particular way, again, allowing that feeling to deliver the belief. Now, what is the belief behind the guilt? in this life, right now. It is in that sense the overall subject of integrity. And in that sense, do you feel here and now that you still, in that sense, still function not entirely in your own integrity? Perhaps before you answer, I will say that that is my perception. And that is where it comes into the here and now. And that is where you give yourself the opportunity to say, all right, I've had enough of this. I am no longer choosing to act out of integrity. I acknowledge that I have. I forgive myself for having done so and will no longer do so. Get back into the moment, and from this now moment, create who you prefer to be, which is an individual who understands that everything is one expression, an integrated whole, and integrity is treating everything with that integrated perspective. Now, when you do that, and as you have done that, is it even possible to then feel the guilt?
No.
All right. Is there something else? All right. At this time, we will pause for a short break of 10 to 15 minutes of your counting and resume contact at that time. All right, I'll say, continue shitting. Ace.
You talked about diversity on your planet. Seems like all of your, it sounds like you're all same. How are you individually different? What are the
Well, again, we are similar in that we have, as you all do, similar bodies and share a common experience in one way of looking at that. But we are all different in the things that individually excite us. So, in other words, perhaps you can say, colloquially speaking, we have different hobbies, different interests, different fortes. And in being physical, still do choose what you colloquially refer to as some degree of focus. And focus, by definition, is generally zeroing in on a particular aspect of reality, many times at the cost of the rest of that reality. So, as we still do define ourselves as distinct individuals and have different notions that float our boat, if you will, we therefore still maintain differences and still explore various individual projects. Does that describe the idea?
Can you give any examples how you are different? Are the activities different? Are the way you approach incidents different?
There will be a common approach in acknowledging, shall I say, reality, and in that sense, honoring reality. By functioning within integrity, there will be a similarity in presentation. But again, the specifics will be different from individual to individual. So for instance, again, one of my interests, if you will, or propensities, is what you call extra dimensional or extra Essassani, since that is our nomenclature for our planet, communication. So therefore, I am quite involved with that. Other individuals may be quite involved with actually, shall I say, recreating or recreating, if you will, upon our planet, thereby utilizing nature, thereby functioning in that type of balance. Other individuals may be interested in what you call music or what you call colloquially artwork, though that will differ for us than you. Then there are many other similar types of things as your own, what you call swimming, the playing of many games, which by no means is restricted to the youngsters in our society. Adults, shall I say, play games and maintain that childlike spirit. So again, as to the specifics, there will be differences. As to the overall general presentation and attitude, there will be a similarity. And therefore, when individuals communicate through channels to your society, although, again, you will see nuances and differences, there will be a commonality in appearance.
Do you look alike also? Very much alike?
Well, from your perspective, perhaps from ours, no. Perhaps from our perspective, we see each other in the way that you see each other with the differences.
Do you get together and discuss and kind of have disagreements?
Not really, no. There may be discussions, there may be what you call discourse, there may be the presenting of points of view, but disagreements in that sense will only arise when one insists upon their point of view, which we never do. So therefore, again, we will in general interact with each other that display similarities so that we can have a common agreement, a common experience, but there will also be self-definition, self-labeling many times by the attraction of individuals with different points of view and approaches, which we then again get what we will out of, accept the timing of having attracted them, and then in general, we'll move on our way. Will that do?
I think so. I was just trying to understand if whether it's boring to be there or not.
Boring? Is that what you said? I'm a bit third density word deaf. There is no such thing as boredom as an event. There are bored minds, but not boring things. Therefore, never would we approach a situation with anything but fascination, with anything but complete willingness to interact with it and complete conviction. So therefore, what you call boredom does not exist. For we always appreciate and revel in whatever we attract in any given moment and never feel we need be someplace else, or that where we are or is not where it's at, which it always is.
Yeah, just for the record, I want to say it didn't come out the way I meant to.
Well, it came out just right. And thank you for having some fun. Is that all?
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you. Sharing. Ace, female.
Greetings.
And to you.
I wish to share.
Well, please do. And thank you for your bold willingness to make a statement.
I don't feel very bold though.
Well, all right. It is up to you.
All right. First off, I would like to thank you and Bashar for being with me in my exploration these past number of months.
Well, we thank you for being with us as well, for that is an equal expression. Do understand any changes, however, were made by you, matching our energy, making some decisions, and taking the action. So ultimately, though perhaps we may revel with you, you have done it all. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for unconditionally loving me enough to allow me to get really angry at you.
You sure do. But the idea, again, is I do not perceive it from a negative perspective and allow myself to function in that way.
I understand that, so I got really mad too.
Ace, you did.
I have been exploring my relationships with myself and also with the zetas. This past month I decided to explore in the realms of regression into my childhood.
A few doors that perhaps you had not peered behind before.
Yes.
Ace.
And obviously the belief systems that I have been denying.
Well, the belief system that you primarily have been denying is what you call victimhood. Feeling in that sense that you were a victim in that situation.
Yes, because I also felt that I wasn't a victim. I also felt I had the belief that I was not a victim.
Well, you have both beliefs, and when you feel you were not a victim, the interpretation of those experiences are joyful. When you feel that you are, that is where the anger and resentment comes up. For anger and resentment are emotional responses to the expression of that negative belief.
Well, all right.
Now, which do you choose? What we are speaking of in the conscious age is understanding, as you have just stated so graciously, that both truths are true. And it is not a matter of making one wrong and making one right. It is a matter of choosing the one that is a representation of who you choose to be now and from this point forward.
Yes, and I believe I've made that choice. I felt that I didn't have a choice. I had the belief at one point throughout this exploration that I didn't have a choice.
Ice.
So, I know I'm still, I don't like to use the term working, but I'm still going through stuff. I'm still peeling my emotions. I still have fears. I still have anger, which I know is judgment.
Do you allow them to be expressed fully? Or do you, in a sense, when the anger and judgment comes up, feel them to be completely inappropriate? Oh, I should be beyond that, and then go into judgment because you feel you are not.
Bingo.
All right. Therefore, go right ahead and do that purposefully. Dive into it. See how it feels. Express that feeling. And while you are feeling it, not now, while you are feeling it, ask yourself what you must believe then. And then provide the alternative belief with that full acknowledgement then. And you will find, as you say on your dime, you can turn right around in any given moment by allowing the emotion to deliver the message and then choosing from the options and expressing the preference. That automatically transforms the emotion, again, not from squelching it. So when it comes up, let it come up, but don't just sit there and let it come up. Ask yourself some questions while you are in the midst of it coming up. And if you judge yourself and find yourself judging yourself, so what? So what? Big deal.
Yes, that I have done. I feel that at times I've done it and at times I haven't.
Well, when you do it, do you not then get the positive transformation?
Well, the biggest thing that I was dealing with over a long period of time was not being able to find the belief system that I felt was contained within me that I was denying.
Oh.
You know, that's...
Do you understand that the hinge of this belief is what you call victim?
Yes.
And all that comes along with that, including blaming the external reality for perhaps not providing the support, blaming perhaps the parents for not protecting you, and so on and so forth.
Yes, and I think that now that that's starting to open up to me and I'm allowing forgiveness more of myself and the judgments that I took on of myself as a child, because there were, with my interactions with them, there were some wonderful, happy times. And so I wasn't necessarily dealing with all negative scenarios with those detainments.
But in this moment, with the judgment that you feel now, that is where the reconciliation lies.
Yes.
Therefore, you can simply release what you call the past and deal with it on a moment-to-moment basis. You have already forgiven that. You have already cast that back. Now deal with what you feel now without drawing a past into it. And you will, in the now, transform it, as you are about to do.
Well, now this brings up a couple of questions that came up.
All right, perfect.
Concerning the past, in my interactions with him, there was a female whom I felt I had a bonding with. And it is, my question is she still around?
Do you mean physically alive in your contemporary time frame?
I don't know what their lifespans are. My query was, what's the lifespan of a person?
What you would perceive to be their lifespan would be, in some cases, longer than yours, and in other, perhaps you will say body types a bit shorter, but that particular individual, from our perception and understanding, would still be considered physically alive, yes.
Okay, so then...
And that is one of the anchor points to which you will again connect.
Yes, and one thing I did do from a place of self-empowerment was, after these sessions that I had gone through, I did speak to them and told them that I felt that my agreements with them have been fulfilled.
Not exactly, no.
Well, in the mode from a victimhood, I'm not from a...
Ace, now that is more accurate. Now perhaps you will still have interactions but not perceive them as the victim. That will be the difference, and that is a completely different interaction from your end.
Well, yes, and from my end, that interaction, I now fully aware, willingly choose to interact with them in that mode without being a victim. And I'm willing to do that.
then begin to concentrate when interacting with them, either through what you call the method of regression or in present time, to simply say, all right, I know I made an agreement. That is obvious. I wouldn't be here if I did not. Now, what's the agreement? Why? And begin to look into that. Then you will find it.
Well, I think that
But you must be at the stage of being able to accept that you have created it to even be advanced enough to ask such a question. And individuals in the victim mode, in the why is this happening to me mode, do not even come close to asking why did I make this agreement. Obviously, an agreement means there's something in it for me. What's in it for me? Now, part of what's in it for you is the process that you have been going through and the fear that has been coming up and the opportunity to transform that fear. But there is more.
well, yes, and that I understand that there is more, and I feel that now I'm willing to go forward, whereas I've not felt willing to go forward at all with anything.
All right. But in the process, while you feel guilt, anger, frustration, feel it, glean from it, and make some decisions. Equalize it to all other beliefs. Employ what we very purposely began this interaction by discussing.
Well, that I will do. I am doing.
Well, thank you.
Let's put it in the now moment.
It is not necessary that you do, but it will help you get a result you say you prefer.
And I don't know what else to say.
All right. Perhaps we will share again.
Yes.
We thank you for your willingness to open up about a private matter in a public place. Shutting. Ace.
Hello.
Greetings.
I have a girlfriend. Her name is Carol Guthridge Hart, and I'm kind of asking a question for her tonight. Her younger sister, Lucy, was killed 2 years ago on Valentine's Day in England. It was a mass accident, and she was the only one that was killed. And Carol asks, has she left the field?
One moment. Can you provide a name?
Her name was Lucy Guthridge.
Now, the answer of the question will depend on the nature of the question. Is she reincarnated? It is not our particular perception that she is. However, it is our perception that she will choose, perhaps not as a she, to remain in the incarnational cycle. For again, now that you are entering as a society the transformational age, many individuals will wish in that sense to, perhaps you can say, reap some of the benefits that they have been living the many tens of thousands of lives to quote unquote seemingly achieve. And many will wish to do that in what you call literally younger bodies. So still in the field, however, not in the physical earth at this time. Now that is our perception.
Because, I mean, she wouldn't explain to me what she meant by left the field. She just, I know her sister was an artist and was creating in the field of clothing. So I don't know if that had anything to do with the question. It was kind of, but that's what you perceive, is that she's not reincarnated in.
Yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Is in between, so to speak.
So she's considering it then.
Ace, is that all?
I think so.
All right. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace.
could you give us some detailed information on the levels of reality that exist beyond this one? You know, starting with the dream state, or what we call the astral state, and then
Well, they are not beyond this one. They overlap this one. Now, what you generally are referring to as the astral state is, again, a vibratorily different reality. Understand again that what you call God, or all that is consciousness, pure energy, and has a particular pitch or frequency, which you would consider to be a transcendental pitch or frequency. You, as a distinct individual, to become physical, change, or shall I say, express a version of this pitch, which will stand out in relief against the primary vibration. And therefore, you create your own distinct vibration that defines who you perceive yourself to be. Therefore, in creating this in common with other seeming individuals, you create a vibratory bubble or a dimension of reality that has particular parameters. Therefore, you all perceive each other, for you are, in that sense, embarking on a similar exploration and are creating a similar vibratory reality that allows you to all make sense of each other. Now, there are other realities, infinite number of them, as a matter of fact, that exist, some of them completely overlapping the reality that you, in that sense, inhabitate. And what, in that sense, gives the effect of it being separate and non-perceptible by you is that it vibrates in sync with itself, but out of sync with your particular reality. Now, within your reality, there are various aspects of the expansion of your being, which vibratorily seem separated from what you consider to be your day-to-day reality. They literally vibrate at a different rate, and in that sense, can be imperceptible in a one-way presentation. So therefore, what you consider to be astral existence is a reality, is an existence, but it vibrates out of phase with your reality in such a way where it is imperceptible to your reality. But when you shift your vibration into what you call the astral, it overlaps your reality, so your reality can be perceived from that reality. Does this make sense so far? All right. So therefore, this vibrational definitional difference is what creates the seeming exclusive realities. Now, our civilization also vibrates in synchronization with itself, but not in synchronization with your own. So therefore, with a telescope, you would not even perceive our star. Though were you to overlap our realities, we would seem to be located in a particular direction, what you call approximately 500 light years toward your constellation you call Orion. This is quite arbitrary, however, because our vibrational definitional reality is completely different than your own. And in fact, our stream of creating time is actually faster by approximately 10 times than your own. So 10 of your years would be perceived as us as 100 of our years. And therefore, we cannot perceive each other without differences or a shift in our vibratory reality. Now, through technology, we have created an understanding of these vibrational mechanics and can actually alter through what you would call spacecraft. Perhaps that is a misnomer in many ways. But the idea is they are vibrational resonance cavities which enable us to shift our vibration and therefore the contents within the craft. What you call your dream reality is, again, more of a touching into your totality, the experience of your higher self, which vibratorily will seem to be separate from your waking dream reality, but is, again, reality. Perhaps you can say in many ways, this reality is within that overall reality. So you can see this reality from there, but not always the other way around. When you are in your quote-unquote sleeping dream reality, you are touching in with the many other simultaneous portions of yourself, as has been formally described. But when you wake up into this reality, into this dream, only will you bring back as a memory those that make any sense and can be translated in these vibratory terms. So many of that experience, being that it will be non-physical, has no translation, and hence you will have the sense that something went on but not know exactly what it was. When you express yourself in this particular physical reality that we call third density reality, that is a vibratory statement in and of itself. And as you begin to express more of the limitless part of your nature, that actually begins to change your overall vibration, since your actions change. And by the way, in a physical universe, it is your actions that determine your vibration. You will actually, through those actions, begin to raise the frequency, the pitch of your vibration, till you and your society exists in the next slightly more vibratorily expressed reality, more expanded, less condensed, but still physical. And then from this third density perspective, there will be a vibratory separation and you will not perceive each other, so to speak. So that is the reason for the line of demarcation in between the realities, and then each reality will simply have its own definition and its own vibrational definition. Did that make sense and answer the question at all?
We're on the question. Yes, may I ask a question at this time?
Ace.
Clarification. Is
You just did.
the astral plane and the fourth density the same vibratory frequency?
No.
How are they different?
Well, the idea is what you call dream state to some degree, what you call astral state to some degree, will also be experienced in the fourth density. Therefore, they are not separate in that sense. There is a version of them, so to speak. Now, is a looser relationship and less of drawing, again, lines of demarcation between them, but they are still experiences that we can choose.
Are they mutually perceptible?
Ace, more mutually perceptible, more of a like vibration.
And Elan, is there an aspect of ourselves, not an aspect of ourselves in the sense of simultaneous realities, but is there an actual aspect of this, is there an actual aspect of myself from the point of view of this focused experience operating in the astral, the mental and beyond those different planes?
Well, generally, from this point of view, you will choose not to perceive it. But again, you did wish to skirt around this, but there is simply no way. From the perspective of the simultaneous higher self, absolutely. But one of the choices in experiencing linearity is to seem to have this mutually exclusive reality. So from this point of view, no. From your overall point of view, absolutely.
More specifically, what I'm asking, is there an astral aspect of myself that when developed allows me to perceive the astral plane clearly, and an aspect of myself on the mental plane which when developed allows me to perceive the realm of ideas or that vibrational level clearly?
Well, once again, from your overall perspective, absolutely. From this perspective, it will seem something that you will explore and become because of, again, the nature of linearity.
Will I integrate this experience into my present awareness and consciousness?
When you decide to, we have offered many times that you would begin in that sense to, in that way, embark upon what you call the astral experience, and you simply have not sat down and done so. But when you do, then you will perceive what you are asking. And again, I remind you that you are traveling nowhere because you are not in a body, and in that sense, perceiving yourself as being within a body and escaping from that body creates, perhaps you can say, a type of prison experience. But understanding that the body is within your consciousness, and it is simply a matter of shifting your point of view from the perspective within your consciousness of that body to another point is a more liberating way to approach it.
I see. And is it possible once conscious in a dream to then explore what's available on the astral plane?
When you are, as you say, lucidly dreaming or dreaming and aware of it, you are in the sense at a nexus point where you can consciously experience many of these other realities, yes. That is why I am saying this reality would seem to be within that one, though when you wake up, you think it is the other way around.
I see. And once conscious in the astral plane, can I then move to and experience Essassani?
Absolutely. That is, by the way, except through the dream reality, the only way to do so right now. Now, this may change. But right now, that would be the way. And when you are in what you call the astral presentation, again, not out of your body, but shifting your viewpoint so that from the viewpoint of the body, yes, you are out of it, but not from the viewpoint of your totality. You can travel in two ways, either linearly, flying from point A to point B in quite the mechanical way, or you can simply allow yourself to understand that when you believe and perceive and feel something, it automatically draws itself to you. It automatically manifests without needing to create corresponding steps. So in the conscious, lucid, astral experience, simply by allowing yourself to recreate how interacting with me feels, the unique aspect of that feeling, you immediately are drawn to our reality and will then, yes, seem to physically be upon our planet in that way.
And when I do lucidly operate on the astral plane, am I in fact learning how to express myself and function on the astral plane, or is it rather that I am learning to identify with that aspect of myself that's already functional on the astral plane?
Absolutely both. From, again, your linear perspective, it will appear that you have learned it from the perspective of an unfoldment, but from the aspect of your totality, it will simply be realizing something you always expressed.
So there is an aspect of myself right now as we speak that's fully functional on all those planes.
Well, absolutely. But again, that is perhaps from the perspective of your higher self. Much as you would understand that you have all these simultaneous multiple incarnations that are occurring at the same time, it brings everything into the moment, including that.
And could you suggest at this time a specific mechanism to facilitate the astral experience for me?
Nice. Briefly, the idea is, again, in your meditative state, in a state of repose, what you call supine, face up, to allow yourself to perceive your body as surrounded by a blue-white bubble of energy, and understand that your body is in the center of the sphere. Allow yourself to begin to perceive yourself as also being the covering of the sphere and the contents between the skin of the bubble and what you call your physical body. And as you begin to feel yourself expanding out, simply once again, consider shifting your point of view, closing your eyes at the center point of the bubble that you consider to be your body, and colloquially opening them elsewhere. As an exercise, as a metaphor, this will begin a particular process that will eventually result in what you call bodily vibrations, and then seem in that sense to begin to graduate, if you will, to what you would seem to perceive as separation, so to speak.
Thank you, Elan.
And to you. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace.
in my explorations of limiting belief systems, I keep bumping into sex.
Well, all right. That need not be a limiting belief system. Again, you have particular social mores in your society. In what way do you mean?
In the aspect where you describe your sex act, in the sex act, you said it's evolved.
Well, I also said that individuals upon my planet are completely unconditionally self-loving, view themselves as complete. So anything that we attract reflects that completeness back to us in the form of other complete individuals. This particular minor little point changes the whole thing. For when you attract a relationship feeling incomplete, you can only get a reflection in that relationship of that feeling of incompleteness. You cannot escape it.
I understand that because I did that for a long time with many, many relationships. But what I'm after is something a little bit further than that.
All right.
In the aspect of choice. And on this planet, the idea of free choice seems to be relegated to adults and not to children.
Well, to some degree, you will find that this is not completely accurate.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying, on this planet. But my question relates to, in my transformation of the sexual interactions and co-creations that took place in my childhood, I was able to transform them and look at them in the aspect of to self-empower me to know that I had choice to be there and participate and co-create those situations. So what I keep bumping into is the limiting belief system of many people who feel the child in this society does not have choice. So I'm asking you, in your society, was there ever a time that you felt in your society the child didn't have choice? And have there been sexual co-creations between what you label adults and children in your society?
No, not in our society by choice. We understand the recognition of what you would call physical maturity. Children are allowed in that sense to explore with each other, but we create the separation between child and adult. Usually in that sense, we'll attribute what you call childhood to what you sometimes call formative years, provide the support and unconditional love to allow the child to develop to a point whereby they can then begin to, so to speak, pursue, if you wish, utilizing that limited label, their excitement, and what excites them and moves them is always supported, and then the proper individuals will always be forthcoming to allow them to explore that most fully. So there is no commonality of that experience upon our planet. On your planet, what very often individual children will represent in these instances is once again unconscious choice, which seems in that sense not to be choice, but in that way, as they grow up, as they look at it, as they begin to use their creations and learn something from having made obviously a choice, it happened to them, they can in that way begin to utilize the choices that they have made to affect their actions in the future, perhaps to the positive. They can learn in that sense from the things that did not appeal to them and not, quote unquote, continue to repeat the same perpetration out of a feeling of helplessness and out of a feeling of victimhood.
Yes, I understand that.
All right.
So I guess then my question to you is, if the purpose of coming to this planet was to explore limitation, it seems that the greatest limitation that we impose upon ourselves is the limitation about things that took place of a sexual nature in our childhood.
Well, it is not by any means the greatest, but it is one, yes.
Not the greatest, excuse me.
Did you say gravest or bravest?
Greatest.
All right. Also bravest.
Okay, bravest. I would look at it in that sense because I felt for myself that the courage for me to look at it and transform it from what I thought was a victim mode to a self-empowering mode of choice, to know that it was a lesson and an exploration that served me to become closer to the Christ God within me and to open up. Yes, I would define it as brave and courageous, but I'm still interested in your opinion on it as a limiting belief system that people hide from themselves, and how one can open the door in other ways besides the way I did it.
Well, the idea is that you will assist other individuals in doing so, for what carries great weight upon your planet, in your society, are individuals who are of assistance, who have been through it themselves. So you will begin in that sense to find that you will attract other individuals who have in that sense explored that victimhood, which will then allow you to be of service to them because you know what they went through.
Yes, and I do that when I meet someone and I feel the right vibration. I'm willing to share, but in many cases, people will run from me.
Well, the idea is obviously they are not the ones to be of assistance to.
I agree. And
but by still being willing to share who you are, even if they choose to not interact with you, you have done them some service.
I agree. So I guess that what I'm getting down to at the end of my question and sharing here is in trying to define my excitement. I've always felt a need to share, and sometimes I judge that sharing as an imposition upon some individuals.
Well, in that way, you can also be sensitive to where they are at.
I truly believe that I am.
All right.
And at the same time, I'm wondering how this need to share, and I guess I am judging it when I say it's a need. I think it's a preference to share personally, but sometimes I use the word need. The preference to share in large groups that has been with me since I was a child. The knowingness that someday I would be speaking to large groups of people. Can you offer me any insight into that?
I simply allow the reflection of your external reality to be obvious. If individuals run, do not pursue them. They are not looking and will not benefit from what you have to offer by it being forced down their throat. Your willingness to let those that do not vibrate with who you are go will create a void that will attract the individuals that are. So simply keep your eyes out. Have the clear intention to attract such a group. Again, not drawing in people who obviously are not interested. Allow them on their way, and you will begin once again, as had been mentioned with an earlier example, form a nucleus around you whereby you will be able to express yourself and able to allow other individuals in expressing themselves to reconcile many of these ideas within them and use all their creations, even that, for the positive. For every event in your life is truly a neutral prop with no built-in meaning, and now you are looking at assigning positive meanings. There is usually the societal negative. Everyone knows that's negative meaning, but after that's all put aside, since you are now conscious creators, there is also, all right, I know what's bad about this, but how does this serve me exactly the way it is? And that is the wild card, the, if you will, membership card of conscious creatorhood. So allow the situation to be obvious. There will be no need to impose anything. There will be many individuals that will wish to freely exchange with you in this way.
Thank you.
And to you. Shutting.
Elan,
Hey.
it sounds like you're saying it's as simple as like writing on a piece of paper those qualities you wish to have or those experiences you wish to have. Can it be that simple? Like I just write down, I just choose to experience unconditional love and excitement and...
Well, it can be that simple as a concept. However, in the succeeding moments, so to speak, you will give yourself the opportunity to see what beliefs you have that may be in opposition to that. If you accept them by gleaning from the negative emotions, those beliefs, and again, nail down what you already believe, then yes, it can be that simple. If you are writing them down as a negation of what you already believe, you actually give more weight to your negative beliefs. If you write them down again, having acknowledged the old unpreferred negative beliefs, then yes, it can be that simple. It can be as simple as just deciding after having acknowledging, trusting that you have changed, and acting as though you trust that you have changed. Period. Everything that we say can boil down to those 3 steps. And that is already how you create your reality. So again, it is not calling forth any new talents, simply being more conscious of where you place them and beginning to factor in not only the idea of choice, but preference. For you deserve what you prefer, particularly when you can act upon that preference with integrity. For then it will harm no one, it will not harm yourself, and therefore is only of service to all by being the expression of your joy.
Okay, so if I do make that list, what's keeping me from experiencing it today will come to the surface and
And if you allow that to come to the surface and you glean from it and you acknowledge, oh yes, I do believe this absolutely horrendous thing. What is again the preferred belief? All right, I am not saying that I'm going to get rid of the old belief. That is impossible. There is no outside. Where will I put it? I am saying that I choose the new belief having acknowledged the old. That is the key. So again, yes, if you affirm in denial, you will not get the effect. If you affirm and allow your reality and your emotions to present where your beliefs run contradictory to allowing you to be that you down on paper, and then glean from that, acknowledge those beliefs, and restate what you have written on that paper, it can be that simple.
Okay, and another question is, should I be, or would it be beneficial to me to pay attention to my dreams?
Well, to the degree that you can use them in this life. For the idea is not so much gleaning meaning that allows you to mentalize the day away. It is gleaning meaning that allows you to apply it into this reality. What bridges this reality to that reality is taking anything you may learn from there and then putting it into an action in this reality. Actions create the reality in a physical world. So as you apply whatever lessons from your dream rather than simply coming to realizations, then yes, you can get great usefulness from those other ideas. And you will literally begin to blur the line between the two the more you ground into this reality ideas from that reality. For they are only now separate experiences because you do not believe in this reality that such things are possible. So you create them as distinct and separate experiences. But as you ground that reality into this reality, you begin to fog the line between the two, no longer having to make a distinction between the two, and begin once again to exhibit the phenomenon, well, did that happen or did I dream it? And in that sense, as there is no longer a need for the separation between what you call waking and sleeping dream, then you will literally, perhaps you can say, fall asleep, as our society did, into a collective daydream, where we no longer sleep and dream. We live the dream. And this is possible for you.
Okay, and I have one more personal question.
All right.
About my son, he seems to be having a bunch of food allergies.
Hey.
Is this accurate from your perspective? And if you could tell me what they were?
That is not our particular, shall I say, job description, but one moment. Are there many beliefs instilled around the eatings of certain food in your household? Often the results of what you call allergies are not so much from the substance itself, for that is actually truly impossible, but from the beliefs or from some of the judgments surrounding the particular substances. Does this fit your scenario?
Oh, I'd say so.
All right. So therefore, you can begin to redefine how you are presenting these ideas. Understand that individuals in general will attract through what you call hunger, through what you call that type of longing, exactly the foods which will in that sense fulfill them the greatest. Where the difficulty in your society comes in is to the judgment. If it happens to be something that everyone knows is bad for you, then you are imposing a societal restriction on an individual whose natural consciousness is telling them the opposite thing. And therefore, a incongruity is created, a friction is created, and then there is, shall I say, the inner battle between what an individual knows to be true for them and what everyone else says should be. Is this of assistance?
No, I really don't understand that.
Well, one moment. Can you give an example of something that you are, in that sense, assuming him to be allergic to?
Orange food coloring.
What is the evidence that tells you this is so?
His ear will get red hot if he eats that.
Does he ask for this substance?
No.
Why are you feeding it to him in the first place?
There are some things that he wanted, and stuff with orange food coloring in it, and when I thought that it had a bad reaction, I just stopped buying it. So, no, he's not.
So you have, in that sense, reinforced that assumption, yes?
Yes.
All right. Is that something that you wish to continue to reinforce?
If it's not true, no.
Well, again, not to be unsettling, but it is true and it's not true. It isn't one or the other, it is both. And what you buy into, therefore, will affect your actions, will affect his actions, and will create different effects.
Okay, well, I guess I have a lot to think about.
One moment. Begin to allow, in that sense, him to eat the things that you are comfortable that he is all right to eat. And from time to time, experiment with some of these ideas in lighter dosages. See what comes up, see what effects come up, discuss them with him, and begin to look at some of the beliefs that underlie what he is experiencing from his end. For now, that will make sense as situations unfold.
Okay.
All right. Then you can begin to get to the foundational belief system-oriented ideas rather than just the surface symbol. All right?
Thank you.
And to you. Shutting.
Elan?
Hey.
Greetings.
And to you.
I'm at a kind of a turning point or crux point.
Well, how exciting. Right. The point of power. All right.
And I even have a birthday coming up in about a week and a half.
A rebirth day. All right.
And I was just wondering if my higher self had any, tips.
I am rendering this to you from a sensing, understanding the information that you contain, and putting it in perhaps palatable form. But perhaps if there was a message from your higher self to you, it would colloquially be, in that sense, translated as, please do what excites you the most in any given moment from what's available and act on that with integrity. That is all.
I already knew that. I thought he might surprise me.
Well, you were surprised. Now that you have known that for so long,
why don't I?
When will you do it? Not why don't you, when will you?
Starting right now.
Well, all right. Then you have just changed. You have decided to change. Trust in that change. Act as though you trust in that change. If you find you are not trusting in it, recenter yourself to trusting in it. If you find that you are acting in, again, opposite viewpoint from that, look at that and realign yourself. Simply continue the momentum that you have just created. It is that simple.
I got you.
Is there something else? We brought it down to the basics. For when an individual does this, you are honoring who you are. You are validating who you are without hesitation, without doubt. And when you do this, the universe responds by, in that sense, again, providing the support that you now believe, having opened up to who you are, you deserve. And that seems to change, again, your level of abundance and your entire face of your life. So the simplest of concepts that we speak to your society about yields in action all the rest of the information that we share. It all becomes apparent upon that action, upon that ultimate validation of self, and the ultimate proof that you are validating yourself, not through the mentalization and talking, but through the action. Everything else again then unfolds. To the level that you have interacted with us with, this would be the most appropriate response to you.
I've been doing a lot of written channeling, and I was just wondering, is there a particular entity who would like to channel through me, or am I actually channeling my future self or my higher self?
It is a conglomerate of many of the above. And you need not ascribe a singular label that will then narrow what you are getting. Simply accept it from the entire stream from which it comes.
Is it just the Essassani stream, or is there
No.
another stream involved?
There are more than one. And again, it would be inaccurate ever in any communications to factor out your higher self. The higher self of the channel is necessary for these interactions to take place. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
There will be but a few more sharings remaining to this interaction. Ace.
Yes. Can you tell us briefly about that man Jesus? What happened in his in the age between the age of 13 and 30?
Well, in general, as many of you have come to find, you will see that he traveled vastly and accessed much of what you generally consider ancient wisdom. And this ancient wisdom went all the way back to what you would call ancient Mesopotamian. In fact, he also attracted certain sources of information prior to that. But there was the learning, there was in that sense the attracting of what you colloquially now refer to as many masters, and was in that sense very well traveled throughout that entire area, which also would include ancient Egypt, which also would include what was referred to as the Indus Valley, which would also refer to as what you call Sinai Peninsula, and that entire area. One moment. Much of the information that he physically was able to access no longer exists upon your planet. So therefore, one of his, shall we say, jobs, being that some of that was obliterated, was to, in that sense, embody many of the principles that had been shared throughout the ages. And what he represented is a version, an extension of the unconditionally loving portion of your mass consciousness, willing to express through a singular physical individual the fact that you are all masters. And he never said my way is the only way. He never said you should do this, you should do that. Simply said, look, if you express who you are, if you attract what excites you, if you act with integrity, if you are willing to express unconditional love to all, this is the great power that you can express. I am a living example of it. You can do it too, if you wish. Oh, thank him. And you. Male over there. Ace.
There's still a lot of people in our society that are skeptical of the existence of extraterrestrial life.
Less and less, but yes. And that is actually an option that we prefer to allow you to maintain. For it is not our desire that we insist that you believe that we exist. No. And in fact, it is an actual allowance that many will still choose to literally not believe we exist, even when we physically land. There will be those thinking it was faked.
Is there going to reach a time in our near future where people won't be able to deny the existence of extraterrestrial life anymore, where everyone will know unequivocally that extraterrestrial life does exist and that they are monitoring our planet?
You will understand from your experience, since your perception is one as that yes, this will occur.
Is there any link between extraterrestrial life and the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle?
Technically speaking, there is a connection. But you may understand that just as your body has energy points you call chakras, so does your planet have energy points you call vortices. That particular area is a particularly strong vortex, which has a couple of other aspects at play, which we will not now discuss. But again, being that it is within what you call the water rather than over land, there are several unusual effects that can be noted. There are such, again, vortices physically upon what you call land in many areas upon your planet as well, where individuals can enter into this energy and, again, align and match it if they so choose. That particular one will represent and will have below it what you call certain ancient remnants of what you generally colloquially refer to as Atlantis. And certain of the, shall I say, materiel that quote unquote went down, so to speak, actually have a discrete effect on that vortex, making it, shall I say, a bit unseemly.
What caused Atlantis to go down?
That was a series of events that culminated in what you would call particular glacial activities that resulted in what you colloquially refer to as the Great Flood. But prior to that, there were, shall I say, other purposefully destructive aspects of warfare that did result in minor destructions prior to the major one.
Okay, just one other question.
Oh.
What about the significance of the crop circles?
The crop circles are, again, postcards, so to speak. Now, some of them obviously are, as you say, imitations and faked, but there are others that are, in that sense, genuine. They will represent, shall I say, a technological slice, perhaps you can say, and the symbols are archetypal. The symbols are not, in that sense, completely interpretable by analytical means. They do contain what you would call certain mathematical relationships. They do contain what you sometimes refer to as aspects of sacred geometry. But literally, the reading of them will also involve what you call the intuition, and will tap into, again, archetypal symbols from your ancient past. For this is not the only age upon your planet that extraterrestrials have interacted with your society. And perhaps in a more open and blatant manner, this has occurred in ancient past.
Thank you, Elan.
And to you. Over there, male, is there something else?
Yes, good evening, Elan.
And to you.
Good evening as well. I have two questions. One concerns what you opened up before, and another one is a personal question. The personal question has to do with a physical problem, an outbreak on my skin.
A physical what?
Problem that I
A physical what? By the way,
challenge.
to us, there is no such thing as a problem, but simply a situation that you have not yet transformed. Therefore, your situation is what?
It transformed itself, or it seemed to, with some, coincidentally with some medical care. The doctors could not diagnose, and I wonder if you have any insights to give me on this skin eruption.
In general, and again, this is perhaps you can say a generic idea, but eruptions of the skin will represent things that you have heretofore bottled up within you and are refusing to express in any way. So now plugging that in, what have you recently, having had bottled up, recently been now willing to express?
I've been looking at it from that perspective and have not come to an analysis yet, so I'll continue to pursue that.
All right. Well, again, it may be more obvious than something which requires pursuit. As you begin in that sense, in your exploration of what you call healing, in your exploration of being of service, what are you recently now able in that sense to convey to individuals which heretofore you would have squelched or squashed within you?
I'm drawing a blank.
All right. Simply play around with this. It will be as obvious, as you say, as the nose on your face. Number two.
The other was a question that, something that you mentioned earlier about the cycles that the Earth goes through, the 25-year cycles. I wonder if you can give more explicit detail on that.
Simply, it is a description rather than a law of creation of a particular time period that your planet is represented as, is expressed by what you call precession. Precession is the wobble of the Earth upon its axis, whereby rather than rotating smoothly, as you have sometimes imagined, there is actually a wobble. And therefore, what you call your North Pole will, in that sense, shift in your sky over what you call approximately a 25,000 year cycle. In this particular presentation of this 25,000 year cycle, what was initiated 25,000 approximately years ago was the idea you call the exclusive exploration of limitation and negativity. So therefore, it is simply, again, an arbitrary designation or guideline of a time period through which you have began a cycle, created a momentum, and now, as you enter, as you say colloquially, although it is still a few years off your age of Aquarius, will be ending in that sense, or be ending cycle, if you will. That will now represent, as this was the age of limitation and separation, the age of integration. Very exciting.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you are already within it, so perhaps you are looking in the wrong direction. When we speak of your planet being within a transformation, it is not something that will happen next week. It is something that occurred in approximately your 1987 year, and the blatant geographic, political, and economic evidence is all around you since that year, an event, an alignment that was in that sense amplified by members of your society. Sometimes you colloquially refer to it as the harmonic convergence. Such then was the beginning, perhaps you can say, of the integrative cycle in no uncertain terms. Therefore, now as a society, you are beginning to embrace ideas that heretofore were simply ridiculous. Godhood was something that was unobtainable, that was only relegated to others. But now you are understanding collectively that you are each the creators of your own reality. And as you begin to entertain this notion on any level, as you are opening up to this notion, you then attract the many reflections in your reality that will then allow you to bounce this idea around, that will then reinforce these notions, because now you are perceiving. Now is the precipice of the timing through which you can begin to create your life consciously, without all that seeming momentum. You now, again, will not be running from the old reality, but in walking toward the new reality, simply render the old reality irrelevant. Not get rid of it. Again, there's nowhere to put it. But you render it irrelevant to the present focus, which is positivity. Again, before we in that sense depart, understand, in no way, shape, or form do we mean when we say negative and positive, bad and good. Those are arbitrary terms. When we say negative, we mean separative, limiting. When we say positive, we mean integrative, bringing things back together. Those are the expressions within your reality, positive and negative. And it is not that positive is good and negative is bad. They are both completely equal, diametrically opposed explorations. The negative energy in being separative actually is one of the energies that allows you to perceive yourself as distinct physical beings. So therefore, while you are physical to some extent, that negative energy, again meaning the separative aspect, will be present to allow you to make the separation between yourself and someone else. So negative is not something to run from, but in walking toward and embracing positivity, integrative action, that negativity again no longer has a hold on you, no longer has an effect. It is simply a fascinating notation in someone else's reality. You can live the life that you prefer. You are in co-creating an interaction with me, opening up in no uncertain terms. Whether you find yourself attracted to these ideas and you in that sense engage in them, or whether you never want to have anything to do with me again, you have opened up to ideas which will be of service to you whether you use them or not. That is, in a sense, my only job. Not to insist that what I am saying is true, but to simply provide an alternative, allow you to make your own decisions, and unconditionally love you no matter what. Therefore, if I am doing my job adequately, ultimately I will put myself out of a job. For there will be no other individuals looking anywhere outside of themselves, and then we will simply again share, perhaps physically at that point, as equals, face to face. We thank you for your willingness to co-create this interaction. We thank you for your willingness to share the aspects of yourself that have heretofore remained in your own private domain. As you open up, you will realize that there is nothing within you that you need run or hide from. They are all ideas, and it is not that one is true and another is not true. They are all truths. And your masterhood, your choice, your preference now factors into it. It is not this or that. It is this and that. Which do you choose? It's up to you. You're opening up. We thank you and bid you a most fond and loving good day.